Welcome to the online lecture series on Macbeth. Today we shall discuss the fifth scene of the fifth act of the play. This scene is situated in the castle of Dunsinane, where Macbeth is residing at present. And we find in this scene that Macbeth is fully prepared to confront and encounter his enemies. The stage direction says Macbeth, along with Seaton and some soldiers, enter the stage, and the soldiers are equipped with drum and colors. The drums are obviously for the use in battle, and colors here signify flags or war banners. On entering the stage, Macbeth commands his soldiers to hoist their flags on the outer walls of their castle. He says, "Hang out our banners on the outward walls." Banners are here flags. The cry is still, "They come." And their specific war cry, the cry for the battle, is "They come." That means, let they come, let our enemies come. We are prepared. Our castle strength will laugh a siege to scorn. So Macbeth is very confident about the strength and invincibility of the castle of Dunsinane. He says that our castle is strong enough to scorn, to laugh at, to defy a military attack or siege from our enemies. Here let them lie till famine and the ague eat them up. And he says that let our enemies lie in front of our castle gates because they cannot enter, and while waiting in front of our castle they will perish eventually, either by famine or by some disease. They will either die of starvation or they will be killed by some disease. Were they not forced with those that should be ours, we might have met them dareful, bed to bed, and beat them backward home. Here they refers to his enemies, especially the English king. And Macbeth means to say that if our enemies were not supported and strengthened by those people who should actually be on our side, here obviously his indication is to Malcolm and Macduff, and he says that if our enemies were not supported by people like Malcolm and Macduff, who should have been our supporters, then we would have strength enough to confront our enemies very boldly, very courageously, and we would have enough power to beat them backward home. We would have enough strength to send them back home after having defeated them. Then a cry of women comes from within, comes from offstage. On hearing that cry, Macbeth inquires, "What is that noise?" And Seaton, who is Macbeth's attendant, Macbeth's servant, says, "It is the cry of women, my good lord." And having said this, he exits. Obviously, Seaton goes inside to know more about the source and reason of that cry. Then Macbeth says, rather in the form of a soliloquy, "I have almost forgot the taste of fears." He means to say that now I am so much accustomed with fearful events in my life that I have almost forgotten how fear tastes like, how fear feels to an ordinary human being. "The time has been my senses would have cooled to hear a night shriek, and my fell of hair would at a dismal treatise rouse and stir, as life were it." And then he says that there was a time indeed when I too used to be afraid. There was a time when my senses would be frigid with extreme fear, and if I heard a shriek, a cry at night. And then at that point of time, my body here used to stand out of fear as if it were full of life. If I heard any dismal treatise, a dismal treatise signifies a fearful story or the narration of some fearful event. Macbeth says that there was a time in my life when I too used to be very much afraid, very much frightened to hear a cry at night or to learn about some dreadful event. But now the time has changed. Now I have almost forgotten how it feels to be afraid. Then he says, I have supped full with horrors. I have taken a full course, a full meal of horrors. My entire being is quenched with horrors, with horrific experiences, with horrific sensations, with memories of fear and horror. So I have consumed a full meal of horrors. Direness, familiar to my slaughterous thoughts, cannot once start me. Direness here also means horror or terror or something which is very dire, which is very sinister in nature. And Macbeth says that horror or direness, which is very akin to my thoughts nowadays, and my thoughts nowadays are about murders, about killing, about war. That is what he means to say by the expression slaughterous thoughts. And he says that horror is so akin, so familiar to my slaughterous thoughts at present that it cannot startle me or it cannot move or frighten me at present. There was a time when I used to be frightened, but now I am so much accustomed to horrific events and experiences that something horrific now fails to startle me anymore. Then Seaton re-enters the stage, and on seeing Seaton, Macbeth asks him, wherefore was that cry? Wherefore was that cry may mean either why was that cry or where did that cry come from? The Seaton replies, the queen, my lord, is dead. So here Seaton reports the death of Lady Macbeth, the queen of the state. Having heard the report of his wife's death, Macbeth's reply is very striking. This reply exhibits Macbeth's utter lack of compassion for his wife. He says, she should have died hereafter. There would have been a time for such a word. Now, she should have died hereafter might mean two things. It may mean that she or Lady Macbeth would have died anyway. This death was very much an expected one. It was not something unusual and something very startling. She would have died anyway. And it may also mean that she should have died at a more convenient time. This is not the proper time for a responsible wife to die when her husband is busy with war and foreign conspiracies. So this expression might mean both these two things, that she would have died anyway or she should have died at a more convenient, at a fitter time. There would have been time for such a word. Then if she had died at a more convenient time, we would have enough time to deal with that matter in a proper way. That is what Macbeth means to say here. Then he again soliloquizes, and this soliloquy, which is rather spoken in the form of an aside, because Seaton and other soldiers are still present on the stage, and Macbeth, in this soliloquy like speech, expresses his philosophy of life at this very crucial moment in his life. He says, "Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death." The repetition of the word tomorrow suggests Macbeth's feeling of tediousness about the movement, the passage of human life with futile expectations and hopes about the future. He means to say that we always look forward to our future, and we always cherish hopes and expectations for our future. But every day, the future comes very slowly and sluggishly into our present lives, and it turns into a yesterday, a moment in the past. So our hopes and our expectations about our future, about our days to come, ultimately prove to be something futile, something meaningless, and something insubstantial. The last syllable of recorded time, this expression means eternity, or the end of time till the entire creation ends. So we keep on expecting, we keep on hoping for a better future till time ends, till there is an eternity of time. And every moment, every day, our future turns into something of presence, and gradually moves over into the past. And all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. And all our yesterdays, all our past experiences have always enlightened fools like us, foolish people like us, that ultimately we all are going to die. With our futile hopes and expectations of a better future, we cannot evade death. We must die at some point. And death has been described to be dusty because after death, human body is going to turn into dust, turn into soil. And Macbeth means to say that we scarcely take a lesson from our past experiences, though all our past experiences always try to teach us about our foolishness, about our mistakes, and try to enlighten us about the ultimate reality of life. But we scarcely take any note of that. We scarcely pay any heed to what our past lives, what our past experiences teach us. Then he continues with his speech. Out, brief candle. Here, candle symbolizes the span of human life, and Macbeth compares the brevity, the shortness of human life to the ephemeral flicker of a candle. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Then Macbeth compares human life to the short presence of an insignificant character on the stage. Walking shadow might mean either a moving shadow, a shadow which is very quickly passing by, and it might also mean a shadow character. In the Elizabethan and Jacobean period, there often was an insignificant, a very minor, trivial character without any name attached to it, without any proper or significant role attached to it, and those characters were often called the shadow characters or shadow players, whose only purpose was to serve little needs on the stage, like handing over a letter, or um, to carry a banner, or to place a table, or to hand over a glass, or something like that to the major characters. And such characters were known as shadow characters or shadow players. So here Shakespeare might have been referring to that kind of character, a walking shadow, a poor player that starts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. Our life is like a very poor, a very ordinary, insignificant, trivial player, a shadow player who would enter the stage of life, and for the short duration assigned to it would play the role of a king, or play the role of a braggart, and then would go off stage. And after his departure from the stage, he is not heard anymore. No further significance, no further relevance of that character remains anymore. Like those shadow characters, like those insignificant players, we also perform very foolishly on the stage of life. We often strut or walk with magnificent strides, trying to give the impression of something grand, something stately to the audience. Sometimes we fret or we express our anxieties with the same purpose of influencing or impressing the audience. But after we leave that stage, after we die, nobody remembers us, and we cannot leave behind us any lasting impression by what we did while our presence on the stage. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. And lastly, he compares life to an insignificant tale, a very trivial, meaningless story narrated by a professional fool. Here, idiot means a professional fool or a jester. Like the trivial, insignificant tale by a jester or a professional fool, our life also is something full of pomposity but ultimately meaningless. Like a very trivial, sensational story, our life too exhibits sounds or grandiloquence and fury, superfluous exposition of emotions. But it does not have any deeper significance. It does not have any true meaning in it. That is what he means to say. So, this very speech, this very soliloquy expresses Macbeth's utter hopelessness, his acute pessimism about human life and human endeavors. Then a messenger enters and reports to Macbeth the unexpected event of the movement of the Barnum Woods towards the castle of Dunsinane. So, when Macbeth sees the messenger, he tells him, "Thou comest to use thy tongue, thy story quickly. You have arrived to use your tongue. You have come here to tell something and narrate your story, narrate what you have to tell very quickly." The messenger says, "Gracious my lord, I should report that which I say I saw, but know not how to do it. the messenger is too much overwhelmed um, by the sight that he has just seen. He says that I must report to you what I have just seen, but I don't know how I can do it, how I should do it, because he has seen something unexpected and very unusual. Macbeth, in a slightly ironical and mocking tone, says, "Well, say, sir." The messenger says, "As I did stand my watch upon the hill, I looked toward Burnham, and anon, methought, the wood began to move." So he says, as I stood vigilant on the hill and looked around myself, I took a look at the Burnham woods, and I thought, it seemed to me that the woodland began to move. Macbeth is fully incredulous to such a report, and he says, "Liar and slave! So you are not only a liar, you are as mean as a slave." The messenger apologetically says, "Let me endure your wrath, if it be not so." So I am prepared to bear the consequences of your wrath if my report is untrue, if my report is improper and false. I am prepared to endure whatever punishment you would be meting out to me. "Within this 3 mile may you see it coming, I say, a moving grove." And then he says, the messenger says, if you come outside, you can see within the 3 miles of your castle the woodland moving. A moving grove, a moving forest, a moving woodland. Then Macbeth says, "If thou speakest false, upon the next tree shalt thou hang alive, till famine cling thee." So Macbeth says, if you are speaking untruthfully, you are going to be hanged on the next tree nearest to the castle, where you will be hanged alive till you die of starvation, till you perish with famine, with hunger. "If thy speech be sooth, I care not if thou dost for me as much." And then he says, "But if what you are saying is true, if what you are saying is indeed true, I do not care if you are going to do the same to me, if you are going to hang me alive upon a tree. I pull in resolution." Pull in means to restrain, to check, to rein in. So Macbeth says that, and resolution here means not determination, as it usually means, but here resolution means confidence. And Macbeth says that now I must restrain my confidence. Earlier I had been overconfident because I believed in what the weird sisters predicted about my future. But now I must check, I must pull in my overconfidence and begin to doubt the equivocation of the fiend that lies like truth. And I must doubt and question the equivocation of the fiend, of the devil, that sounds like something truthful. Then he quotes what the witches told him: "Fear not till Burnham wood do come to Dunsinane." So it said, the prediction of the witches told us not to be afraid till the Burnham woods come up to the castle of Dunsinane. And now a wood comes towards Dunsinane, and now indeed the woodland comes over to the castle of Dunsinane. Then he calls out to his soldiers, Arm, and out! In this which he avouches does appear, there is nor flying hence nor tarrying here." So he urges all his soldiers to put on their armor and get out of the castle, saying that if what the messenger reports, if what the messenger tells is indeed so, is indeed true, there is no chance for us either to flee from here or to stay inside the castle. We must confront our enemies and fight against them. We cannot flee from here or fly away from our castle. We cannot escape, and we cannot remain idly seated within the castle. I begin to be weary of the sun and wish the state of the world were now undone. So again the note of acute pessimism returns, and Macbeth says that I begin to be weary, I begin to be tired of the sun. The sun does not convey to me any message of hope or life. And I wish that the order of things all around the globe were undone, were perished. I do not care if the entire creation turns into a chaos. Ring the alarm bell, blow wind, come rack, at least we'll die with harness on our back. But finally, the scene ends with a strong note of, I would not call it hope, but with a heroic determination. We must remember that in spite of all his wrongs, in spite of all his petty criminalities, Macbeth finally somehow succeeds in retaining for himself the status of a tragic hero. And his heroic attribute expresses itself through his determination, through his outstanding strength of mind, even in the face of adversity that he cannot overcome. He says, ring the alarm bell, blow wind. Now he wants the creation to be chaotic. He wants the natural elements to bring about turbulence in nature. He commands the wind to blow. Come rack. Rack here means ruin or doom. He invokes doom to come to earth. And finally he ends with this strong conviction that at least we will die with armor on our back. We will not die like cowards. We will not die like ordinary people. We are soldiers, we are heroes, and we will, if we have to die, finally, we will die a heroic death. We will die like soldiers with armor on our back, with armor on our bodies, and we will die fighting. So here the scene ends. Thank you for watching.